Did you know that most people wake up every single day already feeling behind? And it's not that they don't have drive or they're not thinking or they don't have the intelligence. It's just that all our brains are wired to make about 35,000 decisions every single day. And the tricky part about that is that 90% of those decisions are influenced by yesterday's thinking. So if yesterday's thinking was unclear, or there was confusion in our thought processes, or we were overwhelmed, or we had fearful thoughts, or our thoughts were scattered, then the negativity of yesterday plays out in our today. If your thinking stays the same, your life will remain the same. If you're tired today of recycling the same frustrations with a new date, then I invite you to stick with me. You're in the right place. Welcome to the Everyday Strategist. And I invite you today to subscribe to my channel and like this video and share it. But most importantly, I'm inviting you to lean in. Because before I teach you anything about strategy and strategic thinking, you deserve to know why I take strategy so seriously. Before you let anyone guide your thinking, you should know where their thinking came from. You see, a lot of people these days they follow information so quickly. But I believe people ought to follow transformation, not just information. I'm not here because life was perfect for me. I'm here because life forced me to learn things early. Things that most people usually only learn when it's late in the game. Strategy didn't begin for me in a conference room. It wasn't born out of a textbook. And it certainly didn't start in my graduate program or my doctoral studies. Those things sharpened or defined, or you could say it expanded what was already there. But the seed, the instinct, the shift, that all begun long before the classroom ever gave it to me. So today I'm just going to invite you to not let someone guide your thinking if you don't know where their thinking was born. Life starts training you long before education names a lesson. So let me tell you where mine started. I grew up in Jamaica, West Indies, and I'm the youngest of six children. I was loved, but I never always felt seen. I was present, but I never always felt noticed. At a very early age, I gained a deep respect for my father. Early teens, when most teenagers were having difficulties with their parents, I was having an amazing time with my father. You see, at nights we would lie down together and we would discuss and we would debate about religion, about politics, about life in general. And then the unimaginable happened. It was just before my 16th birthday that my father suddenly died. And that moment didn't just hurt, it rearranged my entire life. Trauma has a way of doing that, right? It activates a part of your brain that's called the amygdala. That's the survival center of your brain. And when that happens, most people, what they do, they shut down or they lash out or they run away or they just naturally numb themselves. But there's another response that very few people talk about, and that's called analysis. Some people survive pain, but few people study it. And looking back, I now understand something that I didn't understand when I was about 15 or 16. That was the moment my mind shifted from reacting to observing, from just surviving life to studying it, from fear to focusing on what I really wanted. Pain doesn't just break you, it teaches you if you pay attention. Trauma doesn't only activate survival, it can activate strategy. So at around 16 years of age, I didn't know what strategic thinking was. But my mind started developing the raw instincts that later became the foundation of everything I teach today. Here's something most people don't know. I didn't just leave high school. As a matter of fact, I'm a high school dropout. Not because I was not intelligent enough or I wasn't capable of learning. I dropped out because I believed my mother needed me. I believed she couldn't afford to keep me in school. I believed, even at 16, that I was responsible for her. No, nobody gave me that responsibility. I chose it. And it's interesting, at that tender age, it didn't feel like sacrifice, it just felt like the right thing to do. That choice forced my mind to mature early. It made me see the world differently. Because when you feel responsible for someone, and not just anyone, but when you are responsible for someone that you love, your thinking elevates itself. Responsibility is one of the best teachers you'll ever have. Maturity begins the moment you take responsibility when no one assigns it to you. So during this time, I started noticing patterns in people and patterns in conversations and patterns in decisions and in consequences. But again, I had no language for it. Years later, in my leadership studies and doctoral research, I discovered the terms, things like pattern recognition or situational awareness. I discovered vocabulary of predictive thinking and executive functioning and decision modeling. I didn't know those when I was in my early stage, but I realized something powerful. I had been doing these things long before I knew what they were called. Life was teaching me the raw version before education refined it. The classroom didn't replace life's lesson, it translated it for me. Graduate school gave me the vocabulary. My doctoral journey gave me the frameworks. Academic research gave me clarity. Leadership theories gave me structure. And faith gave me a foundation. Life gave me instinct, and instinct plus structure, that's where strategy becomes mastery. Then I enter the boardrooms. And the boardroom is a different type of education. In those spaces, I saw high level leaders and how they think, how they filter decisions, how they aligned actions. I saw systems in motions. I saw how leaders connected small inputs to obtain big outputs. And that's when it all connected for me. I lived the instinct. I studied the science. And now I was witnessing the practice. But most of all, faith gave me a foundation that nothing else could. It was through faith that I learned that my mind was made powerful, that I learned that I was fearfully and wonderfully made. It was through faith that I learned that God had a future unimaginable for me. Life builds the instinct. School gives it language. Leadership gives it structure. And faith gives it foundation. Education is powerful, but only if it translates your lived experience into clarity. That combination shaped the strategist I am today. And then there's a part of my story that I can't speak about strategy without acknowledging. When I met my wife, Donette, I was a high school dropout. I was trying to do a business that I just couldn't scale. And she already had a number of accomplishments. She had 2 degrees. She owned her own home. Her life was going in the right direction. But when I met her, she didn't try to save me. She activated me. her focus, her discipline, her excellence. They raised the standard of how I saw myself. She pushed me beyond any boundaries that I ever placed on myself. She expanded my identity. She challenged my comfort. And something unlocked within me. Psychologists, they call it identity expansion. I call it alignment by God. Some people come into your life to rescue you, others come to activate you. The right relationship won't complete you, it will stretch you. Strategy shifted for me. It wasn't just survival anymore, it became direction. When I look over my life, everything I teach today comes down to these three things. Pain created awareness. Pain wakes you up like nothing else can. It makes you observe, it makes you think differently. And two, awareness creates patterns. You start to see things and you start to see how they repeat themselves. What leads what causes what succeeds, and what fails. And three, patterns create frameworks. Frameworks are simply patterns organized into clarity. This is a heart behind the everyday strategies. Frameworks are just survival lessons organized. You can't fix a problem if you can't see it. Awareness is the path to strategy. So you may be listening or watching and you say, well, Dr. Greg, your story is yours. What does all that have to do with me? Everything. Because strategy isn't for the elite, it's for anyone who wants clarity, anyone who wants direction, anyone who wants to stop reacting and start building a life that you are meant to live. You don't need fancy titles to do that. And you don't need a high level position. You don't need privilege and you don't need pedigree. What you need is structure, perspective, and a clearer mind. Clarity isn't luxury, it's a life skill. Your future doesn't need perfection, it needs direction. My story is proof that strategy isn't something reserved for executives and boardrooms. It can be shaped in a 16-year-old boy in Jamaica. It can be born in pain. It can be sharpened through responsibility. And it can be named by education. Executives have access to strategy. Everyday people, they rarely do. You see, executives, they get consultants and they get systems and frameworks and retreats and clarity models. But everyday people, what do they get? They get pressure and bills and stress and confusion. They don't have a roadmap. So I decided to create that bridge. The everyday strategists exist to bring strategy down to the everyday person's level, to make it accessible, to make it clear, to make it usable. Not just in your job, but in your life, in your relationships, in your goals, in your decisions, in your habits, in your next steps. Why? Because strategy is not just a business language, it's a life language. When everyday people learn strategic thinking and strategic living, their everyday life, it changes. And so I want you to stick around with me as we explore how strategy can change your life the same way it changed mine. And the same way it changes corporations and it changes executives. Strategy can change your life. So stay with me because in the next episode, we're going to be looking at the DNA of strategy, how the brain creates clarity, how direction is formed, how to build mental architecture, and how to move from confusion to structure, and how your mind organizes it all. This is where strategy becomes tangible. This is where you start understanding the mechanics of the direction of your life. Strategy didn't make my life easy, it made my life make sense. And so, if you want your life to make sense, if this episode brought clarity to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, like it, subscribe to this channel. Send this to someone who's carrying more pressure than direction. And remember, your thinking is the engine of your life. Change your thinking, and your life will flow and follow in the direction that God intended it to. I'm Dr. Greg Baldeo, helping you to understand that strategy is a life skill that you must have in order to win.